Hello, I'm Rebecca from the UK. I have no disclosures and I'm happy for any photos to be taken. In the world of rheumatic diseases, I wear many hats, as I have JIA myself since the age of 10. My daughter also has juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and I volunteer with UK charity Juvenile Arthritis Research, supporting many families affected by the condition. Part of my role at Juvenile Arthritis Research involves speaking with schools and local education authorities where they need additional help in understanding JIA to be able to help and support children and young people. The title of my talk today is Enabling and Empowering Children with Rheumatic Diseases in Education. My focus will be on JIA because that is where my experience lies, but hopefully a lot of what I talk about will be relevant to other rheumatic diseases too. And before I go on to talking about how we can enable and empower our children at school to speak up for themselves and how to be advocates for themselves and their needs, I hope it's okay to share a little about what school was like for me some 30 years ago. And the reason for looking backwards first is that I think it's relevant and important for going forwards. So let's rewind to 1987 and let's pick up the story with a young girl, 10 years of age, who was incredibly sporty. She loved hockey, she loved the long jump. In fact, she was under 11's long jump champion in the southeast of the UK. She loved roller skating and netball. Netball in particular was a huge passion of hers. She regularly stayed late at school to attend netball club and compete with other schools in the area. Not only was she sporty, but hugely academic at school. She took pride in getting top marks each week in the spelling test. She loved getting the maths questions right, and she enjoyed being at school where she had a close-knit group of friends. But then she began to experience unexplained pain in her hip. It seemed to worsen each time she did sports, and it would stop her in her tracks. Absolute agony. Then the pain would ease for a while until next time. Then next time became more often, until eventually she was unable to walk at all and in pain all of the time. She was admitted to hospital, and all the while, for all these months, the doctors did not know what was wrong. Growing pains, they said, and kept saying again and again. She had tests and investigations and invasive operations to establish what was causing the pain, and still the doctors did not know. Her mother pleaded for a second opinion and to ask a different doctor, and it was refused. Instead, the doctors blamed the child. There is nothing wrong, they said. She's pretending to be in pain as a way of missing school. All this was said in front of me, the girl who loved sports, who loved school, and was desperate to get my life back and to do all these things again. I was heartbroken. From what I recall, it took almost a year to get a diagnosis of JIA. There were no paediatric rheumatologists back then, so it was an adult rheumatologist who made the diagnosis after everything else had been ruled out. The same adult rheumatologist who'd seen me once before early on in the process and had said it definitely was not arthritis previously, but at least they now knew. The doctor could surely now make me better. I remember asking, so when will it get better? And being very casually told, the pain may ease within a couple of years. A couple of years. Now, if you imagine for a child, to put that in context, the 6 weeks of the summer holidays feels like forever. So a couple of years just felt like eternity. As it happened, looking back, a more accurate time frame would have been that it was more like a life sentence and a lifetime of never getting better and getting my old life back. While all this was happening, I was in the final year of primary school and I missed most of it. I remember at one point telling the netball teacher to hold my place on the netball team because I wanted to play again as soon as I was well again. I never did get to play netball again. I remember each time when I was admitted to hospital that fewer and fewer of my school friends would visit. I learnt then how fickle childhood friendships can be. It was very much a case of out of sight, out of mind, as school life moved on without me. I remember being surprised how some of the people who stayed in touch were in fact not my closest friends, but looser acquaintances at school. I can only conclude with hindsight that these children had parents who perhaps understood what it was like to be stuck in hospital with no visitors, and so they made the effort to stay in touch knowing it would make a difference to me. So I reached secondary school on crutches, in constant pain and having missed huge chunks of academic learning. Yet I was proud of myself as I was still top of the class academically. Watching my class do PE each week would bring me close to tears, and I felt very different to my peers. I was taken to school in a taxi whilst others were able to take the bus. My closest friend was expected to help me in the dinner hall with no backup plan for when she wasn't around. I was expected to carry my heavy school bag by hanging it on one of my crutches, which would cause an imbalance. And I slipped and fell a lot on wet weather days when the school floors would become wet and slippery. I felt like a burden, and because of my crutches, I felt I took up more space than I should have. These feelings have had a lifelong impact. No one suggested anything to help, and I didn't think to ask. The school I went to was a strict traditional type, so when a teacher entered the room, all the pupils would be expected to stand behind their chairs as a sign of respect until told to sit down. And this included me, which was quite the ordeal, with a clatter of crutches, having to pick them up from the floor, get myself to standing position, and do it all in reverse again to sit down. It caused me pain, and it took me longer than the other children in the class. And yet there was no permission given by my teachers, so I had to go through this multiple times a day in each lesson, and it became impossible to stay at that school. I left, and I spent a couple of years without going to school, as no other school in the area had spaces for me to join. There was no internet in those days, and my parents were not well equipped to homeschool me. So instead of home learning, I used the time to get better with my health as much as I could. I would go swimming, I joined a gym to strengthen my muscles to support my joints. I began to walk literally one step a day without crutches until I was able to walk the length of my hallway at home, and then ventured outside until I was able to walk the length of my street, and finally being able to walk without the crutches completely. So by the time there was a place at a school for me to attend, I could return to school without crutches. The new school permitted me to wear trainers rather than formal school shoes, which helped a lot. They let me join in with PE, but at my own pace. There was still very little I could do, but with some of the simple stretches and warm-ups, I could still be taking part. And for the PE lessons that I could not do, instead of having to sit out and watch, they gave me access to parts of school like the sixth form centre where I could sit and catch up on the work I'd missed from the years of schooling I'd missed. They gave me a locker to store my heavy school bag so I didn't need to carry it around with me all day. I was allowed to stay indoors at break times if I needed to, as it would cause me too much pain to be standing on the playground for the entire break time. And there was no silly rule about standing up for the teacher when they entered the room. These were what nowadays we would call reasonable adjustments. In those days, it was just common sense. It was being a compassionate and caring school. Same era, two schools, two very different approaches. So now let's fast forward to today, and in what I see and experience through my daughter's school journey and what I see other children with JAA go through. Both types of schools still exist. Even with the legal framework that is now in place, like the Disability Discrimination Act and the Equality Act, we find schools that take one approach and some schools that take the other. To us in this room, it's more than obvious which approach is best. Best for the child, best for the families, and best for the school even. But some schools just can't see that. They believe their rules and their powers to be inflexible and unable to change for any reason. So sometimes they need a helping hand to see just how easy it can be and how even very minor adjustments can transform school life for a child with JAA. Within Juvenile Arthritis Research, we've created resources to make it easy for schools, and we've created resources that enable and empower children to have their voice heard and their needs met. So depending on time, I'll run through just some of these. So within Juvenile Arthritis Research, I recently noticed that we tend not to use the word co-produced or co-developed because everything we do and everything we produce is co-developed. It's just embedded as part of everything we've done since we began 5 years ago. So everything I mentioned today, it goes without saying that it's either been initiated by children, young people and their families, or developed and checked with them and by them, and also with input and feedback from teachers and schools too. So here are some of our resources aimed at schools. We have school presentations, and we actually have two versions of the presentation. One is aimed at school staff, which can be used for staff training, and one is aimed at children, which is really easy to use with speaker notes, so it can actually be presented by school staff in a school or class assembly. This doesn't just benefit the child with JAA, but it actually helps the whole school community. I recently reconnected with one of my old school friends a few years ago, and she told me that as a child, she never understood what was happening to me. She just knew I was in hospital a lot, and she said it was a scary and worrying time for her. So by letting a whole school know what JAA is and what it's like, it can actually take away some of that fear and worry that other children may have. These are our I Have JIA cards. And these were the idea of a young person at secondary school who was fed up of having to tell each teacher about their condition. Young people tell us it can feel embarrassing to just keep having to explain all the time. And the wording that we ended up with, I have JIA rather than I have arthritis, was the result of discussions with young people themselves. We originally felt the word arthritis is known and that would be better, but the young people we spoke to explained they don't want the baggage that comes with the word arthritis and all the pre-existing assumptions related to the elderly. So using the term JIA was preferable, and it meant that their teachers could learn what that meant for them without any preconceived ideas. And on the back of the card, we have some of the few key messages that young people really wanted their teachers and peers to know. We have our My JIA booklet, and we developed this for children, young people and families, and we made sure there was a significant focus on schools and school life, because most children spend a huge amount of time at school, so it's vital to get things right for them. The whole section for schools has a purple edging to it, so it can be passed to school and they can flick straight away to that section. It gives tips, ideas and best practice guidance. But we know teachers are busy and not all will find the time to read a booklet, so we also created a fact sheet. And this way, at a glance, schools can see 12 really simple things that they can do that will make a big difference, including some of the things that the good school did 30 years ago, allowing trainers to be worn, sitting on a chair when needed, access to a locker. Really very simple things that any school should easily be able to put in place, as well as some other points to be aware of, like the risk of sunburn with certain medications and fatigue, for example. We also have books that we can provide to schools, which for younger children the teacher can perhaps read to the class, and for older children maybe have available in the school library. The Kippo storybook for younger children was written by parents and healthcare professionals in Israel, and they kindly gave us permission to translate and use the book for a UK audience. And the book we have for older children and teenagers is called Peg Leg, and it was written by a young person with JIA in the style of the famous Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. It resonates with many young people with JIA and is a book that will make you laugh and cry and really understand what life with JIA is like. We've also developed a template IHP, which stands for Individual Healthcare Plan, that schools and families can use together to ensure that details of that child's condition are recorded and known to the school. We have seen some IHP templates that are just a blank form, so instead we've given some real examples of things that may affect a child with JIA. And it is almost a worst case scenario, because I always think if you can successfully plan for the bad days, then everything else becomes easier. Together with rheumatologists, we also developed a letter that can be sent from the medical profession to the school. In an ideal world, this would never be needed, as it would be enough for parents and schools to communicate effectively with each other. But particularly as JIA can be an invisible illness, this is for those schools who are not understanding and they're putting obstacles and excuses in the way rather than helping. So my message to any medical professionals here is that if a parent asks for help at school, please do write that letter to the school. You can either use our template or write something yourself, but it will make a difference for those schools that aren't listening to the parents. As soon as they hear it from medical professionals, they do listen. These can both be accessed on our website in our Parent Zone for School section. And not forgetting the importance of awareness. If nothing else, then awareness alone can help so much. So we include awareness-raising resources in our school toolkit packs. The posters that can be displayed in the school staff room and around the school, and window stickers that the school can display. All this and more is included in our school toolkit packs, which we make available free of charge to schools in the UK. And most of our other resources can also be found via our website. I just wanted to say a word about Word Day, World Young Rheumatic Diseases Day, which I hope most of you here have already heard about. It's another big day for us because what we do for Word Day each year is heavily focused on enabling and empowering children at school. So Word Day for us is not just about awareness, but also about empowerment. For families that already have a child with JIA, they already know that children can get rheumatic diseases, so it's about going one step further for them and enabling and empowering them to raise awareness in their communities and their schools. So we provide children with posters, a badge to wear, and enough bookmarks to share with their whole class. So this year, for example, we sent out over 7,500 bookmarks. Many of the children receiving one of our Word Day packs use it as an opportunity to speak to their class or school. So Sophia, this young girl here, she stood in front of her class to tell them about her JAA. Her teacher said Sophia was so brave today. She enjoyed standing up in front of her class to her teacher, her friends, to talk about her juvenile arthritis. Sophia explained to her friends that juvenile arthritis affects her joints and eyes. She said, "I have eye drops, 2 in each eye, and some medicine and an injection in my leg." She then showed her friends which leg she has her injection in and explains how it makes her feel better. Sophia gave each of her friends a sticker and a bookmark to raise awareness of juvenile arthritis. And 5-year-old Esme sent us a lovely video of herself, showing the items in the Word Day pack that we sent her, practicing what she was going to say at school.
Hello everybody. I've got JIA, and it makes your joints hurt. And when you go on bouncy castles, and when you bounce around, it hurts. And in the middle of the day, you just sometimes get tired. And also, you have to go and see doctors a lot, and you get injections and lots of medicine. So that's why I'm going to give you these, and they'll all tell you a lot about JIA. And JIA stands for Juvenile Arthritis, and I'll be wearing this. And if you don't know what it says, I'm not too young for arthritis. And you will be getting a sticker. And if you've got JIA like me, you might get one of these. And on the back it says what you need to do with this video. And you'll get your photo took with either this or this. Thank you, bye.
So yeah, the background breathing was Esme's little brother in the background there, but and it's receiving videos like this that make us know why we do what we do. And for these children, for once in their life, their JA can be seen as, it feels strange to say it, but like a good thing, but something that they can be the expert on in telling others about it. It helps to counterbalance some of the not so nice things that they have to endure, the injections, the tests, and the hospital appointments. And all of this isn't easy for families. It isn't easy being the one to have to raise issues with schools when you're the parent or carer. It isn't easy for a child with a condition to have to stand up and speak for themselves. And the reasons for that are vast and complex and beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. But ultimately, in most societies, there's an imbalance of power when it comes to school. In the school context, it's no longer the parents that are in charge of what happens to their children. They're having to entrust their children to the school, where teachers and schools have the final say. And it can make it hard to have that equal relationship for the parent voice and the child's voice to be heard and listened to. And that makes it even more important for us to do everything we can to enable and empower these children to be able to have their needs met within that school context. I'll be drawing to a close in a moment, but there is one last thing I'd like us to think about, and that is which of these people is the most enabled and empowered. Of course, we all hope our children will be able to lead full and active lives, especially with the advances that we've seen in medication. But if we consider that at the start of the journey, this person here without any mobility aids may be in too much pain to walk or even perhaps to get out of bed. They may find that far from being enabled and empowered from living their life, they're actually trapped and unable to get out and about. Crutches may give the freedom to be able to get out of the house, to walk with the support of those crutches. But whilst on crutches, especially if you need 2 of them, you have no hands. Believe me, I've had to learn to walk 3 times in my life, including once as a teenager with crutches and once after my hip replacement. And you feel far from enabled when you can't even get yourself a glass of water because you can't carry it. With a wheelchair, you may have use of your hands, but you may feel like a burden. You may feel like your wheelchair takes up too much space. Stairs suddenly become out of the question, so accessibility and planning ahead is a much bigger issue. And perhaps you may even feel unseen as a person, where people speak to whoever is helping you rather than to you directly yourself. For some within the school context, they actually preferred the times that they needed a wheelchair rather than crutches, because a wheelchair can't be borrowed or taken away as easily as crutches can by their peers, thinking that they're a toy to be played with. So we can see from these examples that enabling and empowering is not always obvious. And the reason I've included this is that often the medical profession don't help when a family is asking for mobility aids, because they see it as making the child less empowered. But I wanted to just show that that is not always the case. So when it comes to enabling and empowering those with rheumatic diseases, it's often as much about attitude and understanding as it is about having the right tools and processes in place. Some of the things I've spoken about today, I've never been able to speak about before. So what happens at school to enable and empower a child with rheumatic disease, or otherwise, can impact them for a lifetime, long after those school years are over.
Thank you, Rebecca. I have one question. I saw a lot of leaflets, posters, all those awesome things. If people here in the audience want to have a look at it, where can they find it?
So most of what we have available, we also make available online on our website. And if you're searching and you can't find it, just contact us, drop us an email, and we'll help guide you to that information. So at JAR, the web address is there, jarproject.org, and we do hear from people all around the world that where they've been searching online for information, and they often come to us and they say, yours is the best we found in the world. So actually that's quite a testimony to those children and families that have been involved in developing our resources.
Awesome. And Word Day is always in March, eh?
Yep, 18th of March. So,
and
we're
also the website is Word Day.
There's a Word Day website as well. We also have our own, on jarproject.org, if you go /word, we have our own Word Day section where we've made some awareness-raising resources of our own, kind of thought-provoking images that can be shared easily from there. But obviously the main Word Day website will also have all the latest information about the Word Day webinar that will happen on the 18th of March and everything else happening around Word Day.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions? Because we have some time, so take advantage that Rebecca is here in the room. Oh, watch out.
Yeah, I give just one remark. I heard you had a lot of other experience than your daughter in so many years ago. My children are, my daughter with lupus is now 27, so I had the experience from before. And I see now at the university where it's really well prepared and everything is possible. So it takes some time. It's 20 years later, but it's better. But it's still quite difficult. And I think I had Adam as a mom. I had to be always advocating for her and working very hard. So I'm going to look for your leaflets for other moms to make for lupus as well, because I think this is very important. Good project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of the issues that different conditions face in terms of schools, some of them are very similar. So some of the adjustments that can be put in place will be similar, whatever the conditions. So, yeah, we can all learn from each other in that way.
Yeah, they're all fatigued.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Somebody else? I see some young people here also in the audience. Do you struggle with your education or schools or everything is just fine? Everyone's tired.
Yeah, when I was younger, I did struggle with school. Although I worked really hard for it, so I always got good grades. But I had to have double books. I had to have a locker. Biking to school was always a challenge for me as well, while all of my friends just did that without any problems. And now I'm almost done with my master at the university, and I feel like there's more freedom there, so you can do more things.
You can navigate around.
Your own rhythm, and you can plan your classes so that you have the energy for them. So I feel like higher education, like further education, is somewhat easier to follow with such a disease. But I'm not sure if I'm the only one who experiences that.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a mom of a 4-year-old, so therefore I thought maybe it's nice to know. My child is also struggling, but it helps. At least in Holland, we have something like a youth team. It's from the local government, and whatever the issue is that you need, whether it's hoogbegaafd, so you're very intellectual, or disabled with an unseen disease, they can help you. And we, for example, have youth organization, the juvenile organization here, that also made pamphlets like these. So I did with my kid in my class, I did a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. As the mom, I stood there, let him help, but he is now struggling with, for example, sitting in a circle, those kinds of things they don't understand. So I'm trying to make the teachers understand kids with, GIA, they cannot sit still, or they are mentally a little bit behind, so younger, because they had to first fight this disease before they could emotionally and socially grow. So that's what I'm fighting now for as a mom, to give him some time and let him be who he is, and he will catch up. And just, inform. And so I'm doing the same. So thank you that you're also doing that. And in regards, if you need any translation, I can help with any language. So
Thank you.
That's a nice opening.
Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I have one addition to what I just said. At my high school, I had really great teachers. And I was really struggling with my arthritis, and I always felt like I was complaining, or I don't know, like it was, I was exaggerating it in some way. But I had a really great mentor in the first class of high school who just looked into my schedule and then came into my classroom with a teacher chair, like on wheels, and like a good seat. And then she was like, here you go. And that really helped me, because I wasn't asking for it myself, because that was hard. But I felt like they really understood me, and they just, made sure I was comfortable. So that, I really appreciated that. And I think there are more teachers like you who are really understanding of children like us. So that's good.
What you said about higher education before, I think things have improved, because my eldest son is now at university. He doesn't have JAA, but he has autism. And when I went to university, there were no special needs teams or disability teams or anything like that in place. But for my son, we were able to contact the kind of student support team, and they've helped him a lot, through his first year of university. So I think things are changing in the right direction. And the other message I just want to give, I realise my experience, it was quite a negative experience I spoke about, but the message I always give families with young children is, when I was diagnosed, there were no treatments. There was no DMARDs, no biologics. I literally had paracetamol and ibuprofen. That was it. But now there is so much more hope for our children going forward. So, never to lose that hope, because that's so important. They can achieve everything they want to achieve. I've had to accept there's certain things I haven't been able to do because those medications and treatments weren't available when I was younger, and so the damage was already done. But nowadays, there's nothing that will stop our children. My daughter wants to be a penguinologist, which medically I think if she has to go and live in Antarctica, that's going to be really tough on her. But I don't tell her that, because that's what she wants to do. She's going to achieve it if she wants to do it, and I support her in that. So there's nothing that will stop our children. So.
Great, thank you. Sorry.